Hello and welcome to the Belair podcast, where we bring you the most conscious, inspirational, and high vibrational human beings on the planet and ask them to share their wisdom and stories to help you master your mind, body, and spirit. Today's guest is considered one of the most influential teachers in spirituality today. In 2013, The Advocate named him an LGBT architect of the next decade and listed him among the 40 under 40 most accomplished leaders. He has been featured on Hay House Radio, Huffington Post, and GQ. He is a partner in Glad Media and has appeared regularly on The Secret Guide to a Fabulous Life. Welcome to the show, Jordan Bach.
Thanks for having me.
What's up, man?
What up? What up?
How are you?
I'm doing really well, as well as we can be in this crazy political climate in America, where I feel like then there's this collective psychic chaos happening, and we can all feel it in every city, every state, even for those people who, voted for their Republican candidate. They can still feel the chaos too. So now is a time where your program is so important.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm avoiding it a little bit, being Canadian, but still witnessing it from, obviously we're neighbors.
We're neighbors, and we Brexit happened. We have potential really authoritarian movements popping up, in France. It's really affecting the world today. So all of us who consider ourselves to be conscious people need to really be serious, right? So we've had so many years to learn about this stuff and learn about consciousness, and now's the time to actually really apply it to our lives.
Yeah, I love that, man. I had a podcast a few ago. It's I called it like an emergency light broadcast because, Trump is in and people are losing their minds. And it's for me, I kind of titled it Why It's a Good Thing. And one of the things that we talked about was it's just such this obvious catalyst, that it's putting, the power back in the people to say, hey, look, you shouldn't have given your power to the government to begin with, so to speak. What can you do within your own circles, your family, your community, your country, to live in a way and to embody all of the things that, that you want in a culture, in a society, and in a country. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are on how, if someone's listening to this, they're in the States, they're really upset. This obviously is a challenging experience for them. What advice would you have to kind of tackle this experience that you're going through in a positive or useful mindset or perspective?
Well, firstly, to recognize, I have to just acknowledge the fact that, I am a white man. I'm gay, but I'm a white man who dresses, who can afford to dress nicely, and I look a certain way. And I was just talking with my friend the other day and saying, it's this weird. It's not weird. It's a place of privilege to be in, where I can walk into a store, walk down the street, and be not only, not attacked, but I can be treated very nicely for the way I look and how I talk and whatnot. And that is a place of privilege, and it's a privilege. And so I see it as a responsibility. I have to stand up for the people who can't stand up for themselves. We have to, those among us who do have some measure of privilege, even if it's just some money that we have or some position of power that we have, we have to use it to give a voice to the voiceless, like we did successfully at Standing Rock, and like we'll continue to do as this revolution, starting from from our man Senator Sanders here in America. He really was a megaphone for a grassroots movement by the people, of the people, for the people. Outside, it's really hard for some people to attack the whole political thing, which is to say to grapple with the political thing. We have our Facebook news feeds with so much conflicting information, or even worse, all the same echo chamber information. Like you said, I think we can start in our own lives. We can go to the protest if our heart calls us to do so. We can. I think we should all be reading the news. We should be reading the news, even though some of all news is biased. I was just reading today. Someone was saying all journalism on some level, it's written by a human being. So we have to be conscious and aware of natural biases in the information we're receiving. But we got to receive the information. We should know what's going on. And those among us who consider ourselves to be serious spiritual thinkers are the last people who should be denying the reality of craziness and insanity that's happened, because we're the people who are most likely to transform the insanity. But to do that brings me back to my original point. The first thing we can do is, in our own lives, make sure that we are doing everything we can to become peaceful, to take the chaos that's happening around us and not run away from it, but find the core of peace within us so that we can stand in the chaos and remain calm. Right? So, and I think those of us who are serious spiritual thinkers, or who like to think of ourselves as serious spiritual thinkers, we tend to be sensitive as well. And so now's a time where we get chaotic little influxes. I tend to think of them, you know how the sun has some like solar flares of energy that sometimes can like affect the earth. I think that right now that what's happening psychically is affecting the world in such a way that sensitive people are feeling it. And we'll have an outburst, or we'll get suddenly sad about something, or suddenly angry about something, and not know why. And so now's the time where our own spiritual practice becomes of the utmost importance. And we start to really practice what we preach and ask ourselves daily, do I believe what I say I believe? Do I believe what I say I believe? I think that's a powerful question for us to ask today.
Yeah, I love that, and I love how you mentioned Standing Rock, because you're talking about do I believe what I say I believe, and now I think that we're getting into a time where we have a catalyst. Like Trump is a catalyst, Standing Rock is a catalyst. So is it you observe and you do nothing, or what is it? Like, you have these practices, but now you're having an opportunity to put something forward. You're having an opportunity to either stand up or to make a statement or to have a stance. So now we have a challenge. And with that challenge, now we can have an opportunity to make a decision.
Yeah, you said it. I mean, these challenges present us with opportunities to, as the A Course in Miracles says, to choose the weakness in us, or to choose the strength of God in us. And, this isn't the worst time in history, I don't think. There have been many terrible, terrible times in history where things are really, really dangerously chaotic. Now is one of them. Back in the 1930s, a man came to power named Adolf Hitler, and my family was killed. Some of my family members were killed by the people who he put in power. One of my great uncle Willie was part of the active resistance against the Nazis, which is to say the people who didn't just say, ain't that awful, but were part of an active resistance. He wrote a sort of underground newspaper to inform fellow Jews of the movements of the Nazis. And he was killed in a concentration camp. Likely, in his concentration camp, Mauthausen, they had political prisoners, many of them intellectual thinkers. They had them play leapfrog naked for hours and hours and hours until they passed out. And, many of them dying of malnutrition and just physical exhaustion. He stood up and was part of a resistance. We have to stand up and be part of a resistance, recognizing that it won't be easy. Many of us who have public platforms, I see a lot of people, understandably, afraid of standing up or being part of a resistance because they fear that they'll lose their income. They fear that they'll alienate their audience. And now's a time where we do have the decision to make. Do we become part of a new wave of compassion in action, or do we sit back? And I think that the world will be saved eventually, quote unquote, by us. The question is, how long will it take? If we just sit back and do nothing, and we think, those of us who are spiritual thinkers say, oh, this is all an illusion. It's all an illusion anyway. It's all a hologram. So it doesn't really matter at the end of the day if I do nothing. Or I think that's a really dangerous thought to have, and that's because, do you know how much suffering will happen if we don't stand up? There will be human suffering, great human suffering if we don't stop global warming. A huge amount of real human suffering will occur needlessly because we can stand up.
Yeah, that reminds me of a quote. I think I said it a few podcasts ago. Maybe you can help me with it. It's all that evil needs to triumph is for good people to do nothing, or something along those lines.
Yeah, to stay in silence when the oppressor's standing right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so I recorded a video that your viewers and listeners can watch. Most recently about my thoughts after the election. And I really said each of us in our own lives, in our own small corners of the universe, can stand up. And I keep saying stand up, but what I literally mean in a practical sense is that when you see someone making fun of a gay person, you say something. When you see a shop owner saying something or doing something to a black person or to a Muslim person, you say something. That's one of the ways we can stand up, is by actually saying something. So we've all many of us have seen, there's an American show called What Would You Do? I don't know if it's aired in your country, but an ABC News man sets up these situations where a public situation where two actors are playing, for example, a shop owner and a Muslim guy walking into his shop, and the shop owner says, I won't serve you, get out of here. And it's a setup for people to see how people will react. The name of the show is What Would You Do? And I like to think that each of us are on that show every day of our lives.
Yeah.
And that if we did live our lives thinking that, okay, maybe this is all a what would you do? Maybe this is all, maybe when I walk into the store and I see something like that, or I'm walking on the street, or I see something online, what would, what am I supposed to do here? What would God have me do? What would the love in me and the strength in me have me do? Um, we each have to do that, and it's not supposed to be fun, and it's not supposed to be. If we wait until we're comfortable to do it, we'll wait forever. You know, I
Mm.
remember being at a dinner in New York City, and all of these sort of like frat banker guys were sitting around at we were at this fancy restaurant, but they had this big table, and they were talking very loudly, as like, I don't know, frat bankers do. And, and that in and of itself was kind of frustrating, because like when you're paying for a nice meal, you don't want loud people, but whatever. One of them starts telling a story and says, and this guy and whatever, and he's such a faggot. And the last thing I want to do on a Saturday night is like give a lecture to a table full of like muscly frat investment bankers who are all like drunk. It's just the last thing I want to do. But I felt called to, in the moment, who else is better to do it than me? So I got up in that restaurant and stood at the head of their table and said, do you know when you say that word that there are people like me who may hear it? I'm gay, and I don't care. I'm not personally offended that you use that word, but you know that you may say that word, someone may hear it and go home and think about it for days and for weeks. It would ruin their night. It would ruin their week, and it might ruin their life to hear you say that. So I just want you to be aware, and I know you guys are having fun, but just be aware next time you use that word, what it's really doing. And I hope you guys, have a good night. And I did it from a place, and this is really crucial, and it's not easy, but I did it from a place of not making them all of a sudden monsters, right?
Totally.
I came to them, I tried to come at them with some level of wanting them to understand, rather than trying to grasp my power back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you do that, it works. I think it really does. I mean, afterwards, two of them came up to me and apologized. Came up to my table and personally apologized, and then one stayed behind and said, "My father's gay, and I am not okay with that language either. And thank you for saying what you said." And it was a positive experience, I think, for everybody. And it didn't have to be like a Pretty Woman style showdown where it's like, I got you, because we don't want to get racists or get homophobes or like show them, because that's just a video game culture.
Mm-hmm.
We really need to promote understanding. We need to promote understanding.
Yeah, dude. I love that. It's so powerful. It's so simple. And the way that I explain it is that you're in this situation and you see something that to you is, say, not cool.
Not kosher.
It's turned. So
Yeah.
when you offer the example of saying, hey, this to me is not cool, somebody down the line, your mother, your friend, somebody should have told you that behavior is not cool. I don't know, you know, where you come from or why you think it's okay, but by saying something, you now give them an example and you show them that people are watching, and you show them that there are people that have an alternative opinion, and now you give them an opportunity to level up. If you don't say anything, it never gives them that opportunity to be checked. And in the way that you do it, like with the energy, so I'm a martial artist and I've known how to fight for a long time. And if I go into a bar, it's not, if somebody calls me a dick, I'm not afraid of that person. There's a good chance that if it comes down to it, I'm going to lay a whooping. But that's the last thing I ever want to do. So if somebody calls me a bearded twat, I'm not thinking about, wow, I got to defend myself because I'm not a bearded twat. I'm actually really a cool guy. I'm thinking, what's wrong with this person? That they would, what's wrong with their night? Maybe they just got divorced. Maybe their dog just got run over. Something's wrong with them. So, with a different type of energy, with the energy of compassion, of love and understanding, and if it takes you a second, give yourself a 5-second count to breathe, because the first emotion might be anger, to punch him right in the face, or to say you're a friggin' homophobic dick. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're going to want to do that. So just give
Yeah.
yourself a few breaths and just say, hey, man, like from my perspective, not cool. Just so you know, this is the
Yeah.
effect that you could be having. And it's such a beautiful, powerful way. And they're not going to, you're not, and you're also not saying you're wrong, you're the devil, It's saying, hey, man, like this action that you're doing is causing this. Just wanted to bring it to your attention. And if we
Yes,
can all do that.
yes, if we can all do that, exactly. So power in numbers too. Numbers today count. The amount of people that do things, that sign petitions, count. The amount of stories that are shared on Facebook count, right? The amount of people who go to Standing Rock, that mattered. And this isn't, we're getting lots of examples right now. Read the news, look at what's happening. There are examples everywhere. There are warning signs. There are signs of what we should be doing more of, which is Standing Rock. We need to be physically supporting, right, with our physical presence. And if we can, many of us couldn't do that, so we support with money. We give our money. We sign petitions. We call our lawmakers. And nowadays, there's someone on Facebook who's posting the names and numbers of your lawmakers. It takes you a couple minutes to call. And when people say call lawmakers, the reason why they ask you to call your lawmakers, wherever you are in the world, is because there aren't answering machines. There are people who are manned to pick up the phones, and it takes manpower to answer those phones. So that's why you call rather than send an email. It's important to get, share the story on Facebook. Yes, yes, yes. But do stuff offline. Try and do stuff that is more than just a like or a reaction or a comment or a share. Maybe it's recording a video, writing a blog post. So when I say do stuff offline, I mean do stuff outside of the reactionary social media echo chamber, and create something new or give money. Direct your energy into the world that you want to have. I was also going to say, sometimes those of us who don't have a gift with words or with eloquence or precision of language aren't going to come up with like a really amazing thing to say in the heat of the moment. Most people aren't. And we will get angry when we hear someone say something racist or homophobic or whatever. And in that moment, it's okay to speak up in that moment with those energies swirling around. And you have something prepared to say in moments like that, which is, that's not okay. And you don't have to launch into a big thing. You just say, that's not okay. Basically, you're saying, not on my watch. Not while you're, some cab driver said something to me about gays a couple years ago. And it was just, for whatever reason, I had a more intense reaction to it than I did the boys at the table. And I said, it's not okay. I want to get out of the cab. It's not okay. You don't know who you're driving around. Let me get out. And that was very simple. It was, let me get out of this cab, or I'm no longer supporting your business, or just something, anything to let someone or a business or a company know that it's not okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And to go back with Standing Rock, like the fact that, they've now succeeded is so massively monumental. We were watching, them abuse people. They were spraying with water and it's freezing cold. What they were doing, they're throwing concussion grenades while they were praying on their land. That is their land. not to have this pipeline. And it just showed, like, I don't know how many times the people have won versus corporations in history, but it's not a lot. And we came together and we were like, you know what? We are not backing down, because oppression needs to be accepted. You must accept your oppression. And if you don't, then you
What do
can't
you mean by
oppress.
that?
Like,
Oh, in order to be oppressed.
yeah, you got to like kind of like allow it, right? When all these laws and things, but if you're like, no, 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 like I don't stand for that. And as everybody comes together as the community, because who other than the community is supposed to create this electoral system? Now, not to get out there, but for me, you got to go above the system. That thing is busted, but it's what we're in now. So we never needed it to begin with. So when we come together and we decide this pipeline should not go through, it's going to damage the water, and we're going to come together and say no, then they can't do anything. What are they going to do?
People matter. People elected a president that has thrown this country into chaos. We each elected this president. So this president-elect, and so we as a mass of people made Standing Rock happen. We as a people created the energy behind the movement that was headed for a time by Senator Bernie Sanders. And we as a people together, we come together, we raise our voices, we join our voice into a larger chorus of voices, and squeaky wheel gets the grease. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. I mean, I was telling one of my coaching clients the other day how squeaky wheel gets the grease. It's very simple. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. I know that from growing up with a father who constantly complained. But guess what? He got, more often than not, he got what he was complaining about from the restaurant, from the company, from the business. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. And then you see a lot of people who never complain, never speak up. And that's great for the people in power, because you'll take anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So squeaky wheel gets the grease. And hopefully it's less squeaking and more strength and power, and also deep understanding that, racism, for example, is an understanding problem. It's an empathy problem. So, and so goes homophobia, sexism. If we are trying to jockey power back and forth, it will be I think a long suffering process. But if we start at the roots, which is fear, which is lack of understanding, and we start applying principles of nonviolent speech, of really increasing empathy and understanding through the power of storytelling. Here's my story as a Native person. Here's my story as a Black person. Here's my story as a gay person. Here's my story as a white person growing up in Georgia, or in the South, or in Wyoming, who, I am afraid that, you have these white people who think that if Black people get more power, or if people of color get more power, that somehow who knows what they're thinking. But where are their stories? I want to hear them. Mm-hmm. I want to hear their genuine fears. And then maybe together we could come together and talk about our fears and find a way to, if we're going to pass laws, we want those progressive laws to be passed with the support of these people. We need the support of these people to get these progressive laws passed. So in order to get their support, we need to understand their stories.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then you're going to be able to really see their perspective, where they're coming from, and it's out in the open. It's not this suppressed thing that you have just no awareness from. So it's really shining the light, and that is fear is the big one, man. Fear, it's fear or love. Can you look and lead your life with, love and compassion to the best of your ability? And one of the things I wanted to ask, like, you're a very high level coach. You're on a show talking about how to create your fabulous life and, everything that you want. And that's a lot of your work and inspiration and all that kind of thing. When we're faced, on the outside in society that is tumultuous, that's like, oh crap, and you're looking at it and that's all messed up. And then there's a lot of scenarios you could be in. You could be in a job that is supporting you, but it doesn't fulfill you. You could be trying to make that transition. So you see what's happening out in the world, and then you've got your own stuff to deal with, and you're like, look, man, like, I'm with you. This is an issue, but I also got to sort out my own crap. Do you have any kind of, like when you're doing a coaching client or anything like that?
Yeah, I think it's
like keys to.
Yeah, I think it's all one and the same. I think it's hard to live a happy, fulfilling life if you're not paying attention to the suffering of people around you. I mean, just let that one sit with you for a second. The happy, fulfilling lives that we're all trying to lead we have to stop and think, this is a great time for everyone to stop and think. I know I have. Really stopping and asking myself, what is it that I really want? And what am I maybe chasing? What dream am I chasing that doesn't belong to me? What am I here to do? Now is a great time for everyone to be asking that question and to be cutting out the fat, to really leaning out their lives and saying, what am I spending money on that I don't actually really care about? Where am I spending time? What relationships, what friendships or romances are draining me of my energy? This is a time where we really need to conserve our energies, find out what truly is feeding us, and get back to basics. And that will give us so much time, so much more time, I should say, and more money and more freedom to do stuff that matters in our lives. We'll have a little bit more money, a little bit extra time to do what matters and to stand up in these situations that we're talking about.
Beautiful. Love it. I've actually heard very similar things from a lot of the people that I've been talking to about this. The same thing around, all those spiritual practices you've done. Now is a time to really, dig in and do them, really figure out where you're going, what really matters to you, what's really important to you. And because now we have a world, that is showing us a very big problem. We've got problems all over the place. So there's infinite options for you to contribute to something that matters to you and that makes a difference. And what I'm getting is really that, if we look at these things, not to be passive observers, but to really just get involved, because there's an opportunity for you to get involved, and it's now a necessity. We don't have this luxury to sit back and be couch potatoes when all this thing is going on. When just your one example, just, the fact that, when you talked about your dinner example, not only was it that one person, and that's what people think, it's like, okay, you're going to do something and one person sees it, but everybody at the table saw it, everybody at the restaurant, and that ripple.
Yes.
No.
Yeah. I mean, one of those guys might have been very moved by what I said, and so might really take on the responsibility of for the rest of his life, educating other straight guys about not saying that word. Like you said, a ripple effect. And there's a line in A Course in Miracles that says, you cannot know what effect the miracle will have on your brothers. And it's not your job to know. It's your job to perform the miracle, which is great, because what that means is we act with love, with compassion. We go out into the world, and I call it miracle work, working miracles. But it's not my job to figure out what it is, what effects that is going to have. And if I do that and then match up the results I'm getting with my intention and say, well, this didn't work this time, this didn't work this time, it will make me go crazy. In any given situation, the question is, what am I feeling called to do? What is my heart calling me to do in this moment? And sometimes it seems nonsensical. You see you see your roommate and they seem to be in a bad mood, and you have a full night planned ahead of you, and you stop and you say, you know what? I'm going to cancel my plans. For some reason, my heart's telling me to spend the night with my roommate instead. And boom, turns out they open up to you about what's going on, and that's exactly what they needed. Little random examples of listening to your heart, and your heart says one thing, and often we do another thing. And that's okay. But next time, hopefully after hearing this, next time you have an instinct to say something or to not do something or to whatever it is, you follow through with that instinct and trust that you've performed a miracle, and that it's not your job to monitor the effects, but to trust that it's happening, that the miracle is having a ripple effect. The love, the compassion is having a ripple effect in the lives of others.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's a beautiful example, because you think about, your agenda of the night, right? So you're going to go meet your buddies, you're going to have some drinks, you're going to have the great time, and you're in your head about what you think you're going to do, and you've already got this notion of the whole evening, but you're not in the world when the world has said, hey, we need you to do something. Here's something that you can do. I know that you want to be, let's say me, like you want to be an author and speak and do all this stuff, and you got a podcast going to happen, but there's this person that needs you right here. And there's nothing more important than giving that person your energy and your love and your compassion, because that's your job. If you're listening, if you have the awareness, and that becomes the most important thing. And as you said, that becomes the miracle, and you have no idea how it's going to affect that person. I've had people reach out to me 4 years later, and it was like having a conversation with them while we were drinking at like a house party, and I took them the time and listened to something, or it was a phone call when it was there, and I was like, oh man, I got to do this. But as an hour on the phone just listening, and that was my opportunity to be there and to show up. And if we're showing up throughout our day, we're going to have a massive impact on the world.
Absolutely. And we tend to think that it's a life of sacrifice. And that's a belief that's really, anyone who's listening or watching this needs to actually bring up and question, is it a sacrifice? Do I believe on some level that I'm sacrificing to be of service? I don't even like to use the term of service, because I feel it already has its baggage over the years. Like, to serve means to not get paid, for example, and to not get anything back. You're doing it selflessly. But on some level, your self with a big S, your highest self, is being served so greatly when you serve other people. And that's what I mean when I say the truly happy, fulfilled life is one in which you go to bed at the end of the day knowing that you've made someone's life brighter, easier, better. That is a peace, as the Bible says, that passeth all understanding. And so that's a peace that you're getting that. That's something that you're getting. It's not from Bergdorf's. It's not, it's not a material money thing. It isn't even like an amazing crystal. It's a deep, deep, deep feeling that changes your entire life, knowing that you're making an impact. And so is it a sacrifice? No, it's not a sacrifice to, stop. It feels like a sacrifice in the moment when our dopamine gets shunted, when we're like, oh, I have to give up my night of plans. But we know on a deeper level that we are doing something that is good and holy and beautiful, and that is coming back into our lives in full force tenfold.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that's enough to keep us going.
Mm-hmm. It's giving it a try too, and you don't need to force it. It's not like you're going around looking for these things. You just have a general level of awareness of what is happening. And Alan Watts says you have to give it all away to get it all back. And then when you do that and it comes back, you're like, oh yeah, this is the stuff, right? And it feels so good. And it can be as simple as just being a human friggin' being. Go down the street and you're having a great day. Then all of a sudden you're on your bike and you hit something, you break your leg and you're in agony. If somebody just cruises past you person by person and you're sitting there with your leg all messed up, you're just going to hope that somebody helps you. But we go through this mental agony, this spiritual agony. We feel so separate because we can't connect in a real way. And all people are wanting is just to just be heard and listen if they need it. And so if you can just have that little bit of awareness to come in and just offer that support, then you're doing great work. And when you do it, you're going to get that thing back because you did it honestly. You weren't trying to do it. You did the thing that you were made to do. It's who you are. You're a human. And
Exactly.
you're like, yeah, I feel great. I'm doing what I'm supposed to. Like, that was it. And I listened to my gut because the gut tells you that. Yeah, I guess one of the things I want to ask, I've asked this to a few people, with the world the way it is and your understanding of self, what perspective do you think that needs to be, if you could give people a mindset or a perspective or a way to frame their lives in the world that you think would have the greatest impact on how we're all living, how we're all going about things, if you could just kind of go, boop, if you do things this way,
I have a very simple way of looking at myself, and that is I am a noble representative of God. Works for me, might not work for other people. But I've always, I feel that I am a noble representative of God, and I feel that we all are. Every single one of us is a representative of the greater cosmic force of energy that really, as Dr. King said very eloquently, love seems to be the key that opens the door to ultimate reality. And that is a really profound, that is a nuanced and very eloquent way of saying it. Love seems to be the key that opens the door to ultimate reality. And so I see myself as a noble representative of that force of love, the door opening key. And if you're reading Alan Watts, we can talk about doors of perception being opened. I'm a noble representative of him who sent me. So that's my job. It's my function. As you said, when you start acting like yourself, when you accept what your function is, which is to bring peace, to be, to bring light and understanding, some semblance of joy, entertainment, compassion into people's lives. When you accept that as your function, as why you were sent here, oh my God, life becomes so much easier. Wow. Now I can see so much more easily what I'm supposed to do today. I'm not as overwhelmed. And then you forget your function and you get, this is a mass hallucination. As Albert Einstein said, albeit a persistent one. So this is a mass hallucination. So I mean, only the strongest among us, mentally strongest among us, wouldn't be hallucinated. Everyone wouldn't fall into the hallucination once in a while and forget that, oh yeah, I'm not here just to make money or amass followers or look good or sound good or be the perfect parent or be the perfect this. Oh yeah, snap out of it. Who am I really? I'm a representative. I'm here so that I can go stand at Standing Rock. I'm here so that I can sit behind my computer and blog and make videos and make podcasts that promote love and understanding and compassion. There's a prayer in A Course in Miracles that is really a daily prayer, and it is, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? Really just, a prayer as just a centering thought. Where am I to go today to spread the maximum amount of love and joy? And believe it, and it's done. If you believe that you'll receive in return in the craziest of ways, then you'll go about, oh my God, you are reminding me right now, this is a non sequitur, you're reminding me right now of Ram Dass.
Yeah.
Do people ever tell you that?
I've heard it once on Instagram.
You really are. My God.
Awesome.
It's like I'm looking at him. If you know that you'll get it back, then you can go and just do it freely without expectation. And sure enough, it comes back. If you don't know how you're going to make money on a project that is based on spreading the maximum impact, if you're not sure yet, here's what you do. You get someone who knows the business pretty well, and you get their advice. But you also trust that you'll be taken care of. That's one thing I've never wavered on. I will always be taken care of. I will always be taken care of with money and food and shelter and care. God will never, if I every day remember my function and I make an impact, I just don't need to worry. And one of the great results about not worrying about something and trusting is that most times it doesn't come to fruition. Worrying is like praying for what you don't want. It's the people who worry about their spouses cheating on them constantly. That's when it happens. So trust.
Yeah, dude. So beautiful. All of that was very spot on and so important. And when you talked about earlier, getting the roots, that's the roots to the love and to living a life. That's like the core of the service. And, for some people, the word God is challenging for them because they grew up in religious spaces where, it wasn't congruent with love, and so they've kind of rejected it. And in conversations with God, he just says, change the word God to love, and that's true spirituality to me. Religion to me is when your underlying core motive, your fundamental nature is of love. And you can say, put in whatever word feels right to you, but love is the thing, then you're on it, and it's some people I feel like have a resistance to giving it over, God or this thing,
well, or even, what we see more often in our community, in the community of active seekers, is that we say, I'm willing to give over this blog to the universe. I'm willing to give over this project to the universe. I'm willing to give over, my relationship with my father to the universe. But money, I better deal with it. I better deal with this, right? Or, when it comes to this job thing, like, I'll deal with this. So it's really about, at the idea of surrender means, there's that slave song, I surrender all. And they're not singing, I surrender my relationship with my father and my book deal. They're singing, I surrender all to the mighty Savior. And language, as you said, and as A Course in Miracles says, is at best symbolic. So the words you use, whatever. I think it's important to stand your ground and find language that suits you. For a while there, in my heart, in my journaling, in my writing, I would write God. And then online, I would be like, God, or love, or light, or universe, or cosmos, or whatever you want to call it. And then it's like part of this culture of like trying to be the Walmart of whatever you do. You have the Walmart of spiritual teachers, and it's like, no, I'm gonna just say what's true for me. I'll use my language, you use yours. As A Course in Miracles says, uh, a universal theology is impossible, but a universal experience is not only possible but necessary. So it doesn't matter the words we use. Some people really don't believe in God or an organizing force at all, but they believe in life. They believe in nature. If that is the same experience of love and peace that I have when I'm praying to God, that's what counts, is the shared experience, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
100% your connection. And I love, the all in, because I've seen that a lot too, where you want to pick and choose. But and it's again, right, your words, your connection with God, source, universe, nature, whatever the heck, but your intention, if you've gone all in. You're the only one who can know. And then you've got real spiritual teachers, leaders, you just know that they went all in. Ram Dass is not messing around. That guy was all in, and
no, yeah.
you know what I mean? He resonates it. And, over your words, it's your actions and your intention and your heart that's going to really come forth. So just figure that out for you, and don't pick and choose, because you're not going all in, and that's how you get it all back.
Yeah, that's when you're still in the karmic wheel, learning lessons, getting them reflected back to you. And I am by no means off of the karmic wheel. Every year on Yom Kippur, I atone for the crazy stuff I've done in the year prior. What's important is that you're all in, as you're saying. You really, if you're gonna start a project, or you're gonna really believe, is it really believing if you're kind of like half believing? That's why one of the most powerful things I do with coaching clients is have them write down what they believe to be true. And it is a surprisingly challenging exercise, even for people who consider themselves to be big believers or big seekers, because I think you have to ask yourself every day, do I believe what I say I believe? Because then it becomes very apparent how some of your behaviors aren't at all in alignment with what you say you believe. So if you're freaking out about money, for example, and you're walking on the street thinking, shit, how am I going to pay this bill? Oh my God. And you just start spinning out, freaking out. You stop and you go, do I believe what I say I believe? Do I believe that all of the good I'm putting out into the world is going to come back at me, and that do I believe that I am supported? Do I believe that I will be taken care of? Yeah, I do. You remind your mind of beliefs. It's not like you go to church once a week nowadays. You go to wherever you are every day, sometimes several times a day, to remind your mind of the truth. I am always supported. I am always taken care of. And then boom, you get back home and you open your mailbox, and there's a check for the exact amount of money that you needed to pay your bill. And that's a real life story. It's a real life story. So, do you believe what you say you believe? And relying on that trust to guide you when you have to stand up, when you have to say what you need to say. Fear is a sure sign that you're trusting in your own strength, and you're not realizing that the cosmos is running through you. And you have the words and the energies, the minds of such great spirits standing behind you, egging you on, giving you the right thoughts at the right time. And our only job is really to meet the moment. Right?
I love that, man. It gave me the tingles with that last one.
To meet the moment. I just texted my friend who is in college, who's finishing up in college, and she said, I have my senior thesis due on Friday, and I'm so fucking scared. What should I do? And I said, literally just prepare, right? But forget about the moment until you're at the moment. because the moment's not here yet. But the moment when it does come, your only job is to meet the moment. And at that moment, you have the wind of grace at your back, and you do have your spirit guides, and you do have your angels if you believe in them. You have the right words come to you at the right time. Just meet the moment. Prepare, and then meet the moment. Whether it's a difficult conversation, a presentation, an interview. I never prepare for anything. I just meet the moment. I just meet the moment. You meet the moment, you see what happens, and you trust. You trust I'm always guided. I'll have the right words to say at the right time to reach the right people.
Brother, man, so beautiful.
Awesome.
I want to be respectful of your time. So the last question that I would say is, where can people find more about you? And they want to hear more of your Instagram is amazing. Your blog is awesome. I really enjoyed reading it. You have a very high level of wisdom and authenticity and a beautiful way of writing. And
Thank you.
And go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, if you could, as a last question, just any closing thoughts that you might have, but also what belief or beliefs would you, if you could just give people, to empower them a life of freedom or peace or whatever, would you have like a couple of those you might want to share that people could take?
I would say what matters is not, we talked a bit about language today and God and the cosmos. And I think those people who are watching this type of programming or listening already have some beliefs, already have some setup in their minds, maybe, even if just the most faint psychological infrastructure. So I would say in this age that we're moving into, it is less about having people like me sit here and tell you some beliefs. And it's more about my ability to give you an experience. So if you've been listening or watching this and you've had an inner experience in your own mind, in your own heart, as a result of something I've said, that experience is what counts. So I oftentimes, like with my coaching clients, people will say, can you just say that again? Can you just say those words again? And I'll go, oh, I forget the words that I just said. But what matters is the feeling that you have right now. Now explain it back to me. What are you feeling? What was that aha moment? Explain it back to me. So it's for me to come up with a belief that you can go for. There are great mantras, right? Every single morning that I wake up of my life, I close my eyes and say, there is a place in me where there is perfect peace. There is a place in me where there is perfect peace. Another line is, there is an ancient peace I carry in my heart that has not been lost. An ancient peace. So I love the wording and the language of A Course in Miracles. That's why I'm drawn to that as a metaphysical text, and it's one that I love at this point in my life. And somebody may be drawn to the Old Testament or the New Testament or Watts or Ram Dass or whatever. But you find the language and the symbolism that gives you that experience, that internal experience of peace, and you chill with it. So it's like, whatever that experience is, that's what matters. And as each of us go out into our lives as seekers and naturally become the teachers, which we have to do as good students, we then become teachers. And to learn something, to really master something, you got to teach it. So if you want to have peace, teach it. But in order to do that, you want to give the experience of it. Just give I would say, I'll leave that with people. Give the experience of peace. If you're walking up to the homophobe or the racist, you're telling them to be peaceful people. It's this thing that you're seeing a lot, especially in younger people, like in our generation, where it's angry peacemakers. Just think, I'm not making any judgments. I'm just saying, think about it. Mm-hmm. Think about it. Wow, you are really judging that person. Gosh, the Westboro Baptist Church picketing at funerals. Gay God hates fags, and then the response to those people surprisingly judgmental. It's the same problem. It's the same problem. What is triggering us so much about these people that we are so hateful and judgmental and angry? How can we, amidst this chaos, find that peace within ourselves so that we can be genuine channels for grace, for compassion? And the other question, where can you find me? Go to my website, thebachbook.com, and sign up. Give me your email. See, do you like how I'm very straightforward?
Yeah, get my email, man.
Give me your email, and I'll tell you why. Because and I think this is for you, and this is for anyone watching who has an online following. If you bank your audience on one particular platform, like on Instagram or on Vine, for example, which is shut down, your following disappears. So in this age where Trump can become president, a reality television bully who is, he's definitely Googling right now, like, what does a president do? And really, God bless him, because that is such a place to be. It must be a very scary place for him. This is a crazy world. Anything could happen. So don't bank on Instagram or Facebook. Get people's emails and then don't abuse them. Get people's emails. Respect the fact that you're in their inbox. I send out 1 email a week or less. And then I'll give people exactly what's going on and my latest stuff all in 1 email. But don't you think that's a good point?
Oh, 100%.
That these platforms can die one day, and then all of a sudden your following is gone. And
it's for me, like, cause in the marketing space, and just email is like your connection to a friend. So, when I read your blog and then I give you my email, then, I get like a little piece of your life and what you're going through. And if you think that the person has value and they're doing good work and they're inspiring you, as an influencer, your job is to support the people that you're sharing the wisdom with. And as a learner, as a lifelong learner, you can never stop. I really love getting amazing content, and email's the best way because I can see what you're up to, and like you're like, hey man, I saw this amazing book, right? And it's helped you grow, and now instantly I have that information, and there's the power of the internet.
Yeah, and gosh, they're terrible email marketers, right?
Yes.
And just over Thanksgiving, I was thinking about posting a video, and then I thought, what people need right this week isn't another video. I just want to, and so I just sat down in front of a fire and wrote a letter to my subscribers because I was building a fire, and I was thinking as I was building the fire about building a fire. You have to start with logs, and then there's kindle, and I thought up this idea of building peace in a cold hearth, and I wrote that story to my subscribers, and that was it. So I really take it as a privilege to be in people's inboxes, and I think nowadays it's really one of the best connections you can have with people. And I have to take it seriously, and people have to choose wisely what comes in their inbox, or else they have hundreds of crap emails.
Yep.
Yeah, we could go on and on.
Well, my friend, thank you so much. Everybody listening, definitely subscribe. I subscribe, so if I did it, you should. But I really enjoy your writing. It's beautiful, man. And just thank you for your work and what you're doing and your intention. And like you said, just living it to the best that you can and sharing it as much as you can. So tons of love and gratitude for you.
Thank you. And to you.
Okay, brother. Thanks everyone for listening. See you next week. Peace.